less than men do?
Because they go into different lines of work. They don't go into lines of work which have a risk, a premium, if you like.
What do you mean? What lines of work is this where women don't have as much risk as men?
Well, I mean, 126 people died last year in work-related incidents. 2 of them are women. Women do not go into those lines of work. And just to go back to the gender pay gap has been discredited decade after decade. It's all down to different lines of work. But if I can just have one example of everyday sexism, we know that about...
You do find a lot more young women tend to study the arts and humanities as opposed to scientists.
That's
I think
choice.
we'd love to see a lot more women educated.
I mean,
and I don't think you can say it's choice.
Daisy, it's got so ridiculous today that female postgraduate engineering students at Brunel earn £15,000 a year additional grant purely because they're women. They don't want to go to that line of work.
That's largely because there's not enough women going into the industry.
Why
what's wrong with that problem?
Why is no one complaining about this 70% of medical students who are women? That isn't a problem, apparently. So where do you get all your figures from? Well, official statistics. They're all available.
Because
they're all on our
quite
website.
interested to find out exactly where you get the figures in terms of men are... There is no gender pay gap.
It has been... Really, I can't believe anyone would come up with that. You know, it has been discredited for 20 years. Women go into different lines of work. There are lines of work they want to go into, so supply exceeds demand, and that it's just, you know...
I'm sorry, the reason I'm laughing is because everything that you're saying is laughable. Like, there is a gender pay gap. You might not want it to exist because you clearly don't like women very much, but it does.
It does exist.
Mike, is this a fair point Dina's making? You don't like women very much?
Absolute nonsense.
Because to be fair to Daisy and Dina, they have said that, look, there are issues which affect men just as much as women.
Which has been discredited. You know, it's perfectly well known that there is a gender pay gap, but it's down to women's choices. Women will not go into things like engineering, and you know...
OK, but I think that... I don't know if you know any women, or... I mean,
I do. What a silly statement.
OK. When women are young, it's a lot of the things that people who are sort of anti-sexism campaigners or people who campaign for women to get more involved with science and technology and engineering and maths say is that they're not incentivised and they're not told when they're young and when they're in school that they can do these jobs, and that's why there's a lot of work to say.
Why do they always have to be incentivised? Why do women need role models? I mean, for God's sake, are they adults or are they sheep?
Mike, who are your role models?
Sexism in terms of every day in your life, in your working situation, and Dina, what have you experienced there?
I was talking to someone the other day, and I said that I was just talking about the art of like getting in a taxi, and I said, obviously, you know, when you get in a taxi, the first thing that the taxi driver says to you is, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" And they were like, "Really?" And it was like, yeah. I mean, obviously, you don't realise it, but it doesn't happen to men, and you don't have to say to a taxi driver or to a man on the street, like, who will come. I mean, men approach me on the street a bit. And you know, you don't have to say to them, "Please go away, I have a boyfriend," because I mean, that is kind of a bit... They sort of just expect you to be interested.
That the only way you can get a man to leave you alone is to essentially say, "I am owned by another man."
Yeah, because he respects the other man more than your decision to say no to him.
What's your feelings then on this sort of society approach to women and sexism?
I think it's pathetic. I think it's turning... It's just a recipe for whiny women to whine, which is why we call the Everyday Sexism Project the Everyday Whining Project. You actually get stronger in life by meeting challenges. You don't get stronger by expecting the world mysteriously to stop, you know, a few sexist men saying things to you.
I really wish Mike was right. I really wish this is imaginary.
I really wish that...
It's low-level stuff.
I don't think that it's low-level stuff, and I don't think that it's very respectful for you to minimise the experience of loads of women. I mean, there is a problem, just in terms of getting on the tube. The other day, I was getting off the tube and a man reached out and grabbed my breast. I mean, that is not something that should have to happen on tubes. That's inappropriate behaviour, and I shouldn't have to feel bad or sad for a day.
OK, Dina, we're just going to...
across the board.
I mean, this is quite an interesting point in regards to the issues and the mental health issues men have to deal with. Is that something created by men? It's not something you could say would be created by women.
No, I mean,
in terms of why they can't talk, why they can't talk about their emotions, express themselves.
Again, you know, when people talk about male suicides, and it's because they you know, they can't talk about their emotions, I think that's kicking a dead man, quite frankly. Some months ago, I did a piece on homelessness, which is overwhelmingly a male problem. A social worker wrote in to say, she emailed me to say that she works you know, that she works with the homeless, and if a homeless woman comes to her on a Friday, she has to give her clothes, money, food, and accommodation. If a man comes in on a Friday, he's sent back out on the street with nothing. I mean, are we really surprised that today, for every woman who commits suicide, 3.5 men will.
Mike, we really need to talk about where